Good morning and welcome to the Marketing That Grows Your Business show. I'm excited, as always, around every special guest we have. But today we're going to take something I think is what I just was telling our special guest, that is sometimes the fancy smancy terminology, agile marketing. Like, what the heck is that? Like, right? Taking that and really making it relevant to absolutely every one of us. Like, how do we take a more of I'll call it a big brand model and implement it, and making things that we do in our businesses simpler, instead of so complex. I think the complexity of marketing, it just messes us up, right? We can't do all the things, and I think we try to, we follow the latest shiny object, or whatever the component, whatever is happening in our businesses, and a lot of it's complex. Let's just be real. Let's just keep it real, and it can be overwhelming. So I'm excited about this topic today because, like I say, it's something that big brands are embracing, and I think there's a lot of facets of it that the average Joe, the average business owner, can also use. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you feel overwhelmed with all the marketing stuff, then you are in the right place. As you guys are coming in, where in the world are you this morning or this afternoon or this evening? I know everybody's joining us from different time zones. It is a lovely day here in Virginia. I don't know, obviously the storm, a lot of people reached out to me because they thought I was still in Tampa. My son was there. Obviously, you probably know by now, but Tampa dodged a major bullet, but the people in South Florida didn't. People, I think, through like Northport to Fort Myers area, if you're familiar with Florida at all. It's been devastating, and will continue to be for those people. So please hold them in your prayers. We got tons of rain over the course of the weekend here in Virginia, the spinoff, I guess, of the storm. But today it's beautiful. The sun is shining, and it's just an incredible day. Or it looks like maybe a little cold. Hence I was just talking to our special guest today. We were comparing the fact that we had on our nice warm sweatshirts today. That's my favorite part of the fall. I actually get to enjoy fall this year. Like, I'm usually in Tampa and we don't have fall. So Indianapolis is in the house this morning, and I saw Paul. Paul, you're just so awesome. Laurel, Maryland. I bet it's a little chilly up there too. Paul is usually with us every Monday. Always appreciate seeing him. And let's see. Yeah. So like I say, as you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. Where are you in the world? So today we have our giveaway. I think that was last week's giveaway, so I apologize for that. Our giveaway today, I'm just going to have to tell you because I don't have a slide for it. We're giving away, hang on just a second, let me pull it up here. I'm usually so much more organized than this. Hang on. I'll tell you what it is in just a second. Every week we try to do something different, but we're going to give away today 2 of my How to Build a High Converting Freebie Funnel. So this is I call it a mini training. So if you don't have a lead gen that's working for you, or you don't have a lead gen period, it's something we all need. So, one of the best ways to get people to say, yes to, being in your community is to give them something value-based, something that's free. So we're giving away 2 of those courses today. And if you would like to win, we have a couple of ways that you can win. So everybody always likes, well, okay, yes, I want that, but how do I get it? Well, one, you can share your aha moments. Just drop hashtag aha. Use the hashtag aha. That's the key. That's how we enter you into the wheel. We call it the wheel of wow. And we have a little wheel. We spin it and we draw winners at the end of today's show. So dropping in your aha moments, those are things that you didn't know. And there may be a lot of those in this show, simply because this is I think this will be a new concept for most of us. I actually heard Dorian talk about this at an event recently. So I've got a little bit of a knowledge on it. So I'm excited about bringing her in and letting her share. But an aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Or sometimes we hear things that we knew, but we needed to hear them again. So drop those in, tag someone or sprinkle it out into the world so that we can get more people in here in the know around doing things easier with agile marketing. And then last but certainly not least, ask questions. We love them. We'll certainly try to pull in as many of them as we can. If you don't want to be concerned about taking notes, sitting here with a notepad and a pen, then we got you. Okay. So this is specific to Facebook. Unfortunately, the other social platforms don't have that messenger functionality where you can send out the show notes afterwards. So if you're not on Facebook, we're going to drop a link in so that you can come over and put notes in to the underneath this particular video or this live show, and we'll make sure you get the notes. So if you're on LinkedIn or any other place, it doesn't work quite the same. Just take that extra step and we'll make sure you get the notes. They'll be delivered to your messenger inbox on Facebook. So let me just share a little bit about our special guest today. Actually, I'm going to bring in Dorian in just a minute, and I want her to tell her story because I always do that. But just sharing a little bit about how long I've known her. I don't even know how far back we go. I think we met in person the first time, like a lot of people that I've met in person. It was at Social Media Marketing World. I'm pretty sure that's where we met. And we've just known each other for years now. And I've watched her do incredible things and evolve. Like we all do, we all evolve and pivot sometimes. And she's really embracing this concept of marketing. And she's speaking in all kinds of amazing high-end places these days on educating other businesses and brands around this concept. So I'm super excited that she said yes to come in and share in this with us. And I want you guys to put your hands together for Dorian. Woo-hoo, right? All right, we're going to bring her in. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Kim. That's great. I think we met Social Media Marketing World 2015. So
wow. I mean, there's something that always has bothered me is, when I would go to Social Media Marketing World and I would meet someone and later they would tell me, well, I met you in wherever they met. One, if I didn't remember them, just mortified when I don't remember somebody. But remembering like the year, I never remember. All I remember is usually the location. So the fact that you remember like the year is like, I'm so excited about that. Because if you do the math on that, that's what, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. 7
years. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was my first time out there. And then I think we reconnected 2017. I've been going every other year or so. And then I went to your event in Chicago.
Yes.
So I met you there.
Years ago.
Yeah. Yes. So there's definitely several different times. And then we just met in Lima, Ohio at Social Media Week Lima, which was a great event as well.
Yeah. We just both of us spoke at that event, which was so fabulous. I loved that event. Do you have your bobblehead handy?
I do. One second.
Okay. So y'all, one of the things you get as being a speaker at Social Media Day Lima is they give you a bobblehead. Like, look, is she not the cutest? She's way cuter than me, but look how cute they are. Like, who gets their own bobblehead, right? us, evidently.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all you have to do is go speak at Social Media Day Lima, and you can get your own bobblehead. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I have her here. I actually, this is kind of a sad story. I spoke at Lima before, and I had a beautiful bobblehead, and then we adopted we fostered and then adopted a young dog who was pretty misbehaved because he was a puppy, and he attacked everything that was mine, including one day he jumped up on my desk, grabbed the bobblehead, and ate the head. So don't know what that says. So my other bobblehead is gone. So I was super happy to get a second one.
Yeah. So yeah, I heard that story. So it's so funny because we have a Social Media Day Llama stories. Your story is the previous bobblehead. My story is how I got how I got a ticket in a rest area. Like, I don't know if you heard that story,
No.
which was just a gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, I got a ticket at the rest area there in Lima. Who does that? How do you get a ticket? There's a whole story behind that. And then a few months later, I get a notification from the state of Florida saying that they're going to pull my driver's license if I don't go to driver's ed school because I got this ticket. And this weird ticket, and like for not like obeying a sign that was in a rest area parking lot. In a rest area parking lot. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Wow.
All right, let's set all these stories. The stories are fun though, right? Y'all,
Yeah.
stories are fun. But anyway, let's get into this. Everybody's probably not wanting to hear all of our traffic stories, but anyway. So Dorian, can you share a little bit about like what's your backstory? Like I alluded to a little bit, we've known each other for a long time. You've done a lot of different things in the online space, but kind of share like your journey, like your 2-3 minute journey and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I I'm from the Netherlands. I came to this country as a young adult, immigrated on my own as an au pair, and met the love of my life and stayed. And so I've been married for, oh gosh, 33 years. And we have 4 children. And so I was a stay at home mom for a long time. And so when my youngest child started kindergarten, of 4, I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And it was right around 2010, 2011. And the internet was really coming up, social media was really happening. And my husband, who has an MBA from the Wharton Business School, was like, well, things have really changed. And I got my MBA. And would you mind just brushing up on some marketing and maybe helping me? So I took an online course on social media management and started locally teaching local business owners on how to do social media, because I literally was like 3 or 4 steps ahead, like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of them, and was teaching them how to do social media. We were doing in-person networking, online networking, and that's kind of how I got started. Nobody was a freelance social media marketer at that point in my hometown, and kind of from there took that journey, as Kim said, growing, learning. I started working for agencies, then I did a lot of B2B. I started doing community management, learned social media strategy, and now I'm trying to apply, and I am, agile marketing and bringing it to the small business. And that's kind of where I guess Kim and I are going to talk about today and why. But my youngest son, who started kindergarten and kind of was the catalyst to starting my business, started college this fall. It's crazy. So it's been a crazy ride, but if I can do it, you can do it. If you're at the beginning of a business journey, or if you're wondering, I struggled with imposter syndrome for a while. I didn't have credentials, I didn't have credibility. How do I get started, right? So I figured out all of those hurdles, and I'm pretty successful, and I'm having a blast in my business right now. So it's been a great ride.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because, that I think a lot of people who struggle on the front side of wherever they are, sometimes it's shifting directions, and now they're like, well, do I know enough? Can I do this? That imposter syndrome thing. But the reality is we all started somewhere. Like none of us just popped out and was a, pro or an expert on any of this stuff. I love that you said you were just 2 or 3 steps ahead. That's all it takes, and the
Yep.
willingness to step out and share what you know. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it sounds easy. I'm trying to probably simplify it, but it really can be that easy. Just value what you know at that point in time, and you are on the road. You just got to get on the road, I
Right.
guess, is the point. And the road will pivot.
Right.
You'll get to some forks and you take some paths. It's just all it is.
Well, and you've got to keep your eyes open for the opportunities. I do think
Amen.
that is something. If you just get stuck in, well, I've always done it this way, or I'm always doing it this way, look what happened with a, pandemic. You've got to be ready to pivot, and that's what we're going to talk about. So that's a good thing, but you've got to see the opportunities and be willing to adjust. Not necessarily your strategy, but you got to adjust your tactics. So
Yes.
we'll talk
Yes.
about that.
And I think lots of times with marketing in particular, we get sidelined every day with all the latest and greatest shiny object stuff instead of just really nailing down our principles. There's principles of marketing that will never change, and if you get those down, then you can implement some other things. But let's break this down a little bit more.
Sure.
Because obviously the title of today's show is, how to make anything easier, with agile marketing. So what the heck is agile marketing, just in layman's terms?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. So Agile is a framework. It's a mindset. It's a way of doing productivity, basically. And it comes from the software industry in like 2002, something around that time. A bunch of software engineers got together and wrote the Agile Manifesto. They were on a ski trip and they're like, this is what we do. And what happens with software is that you write a bunch of code and then you're going to try it out and test it. And then you find the pieces that don't work and you write some more code and you test it again. And that's iterations, right? So that's where it comes from the software industry. And the people in the software industry, it's like gaming and coding, they figured out that you can also use it for other places. So the big companies started figuring out they can use that same principle of productivity, of improving and making small improvements in HR, in marketing, in sales, right? So Agile's kind of dripped down to some of the other departments, but a lot of Agile is still in the big companies. It's a team effort, team collaboration is a big piece to that. So that's kind of the short of it. It came from the software industry. It is now in marketing, and it's putting out the minimal viable product is what in software. What is the minimal amount that you can code to have a working product, to put it out to the masses, test it, and get feedback to then improve upon it and do the next iteration. And a perfect example of a company who's doing this is Apple. If you own an iPhone, how many updates do you get constantly, right? So what happens is they put out iOS 16 right now, right? And so there might be bugs, there might be little things. They do their coding on their end and they tell you, go ahead and update. And they get feedback. You can report bugs. That's a software company who's using the agile, the iterative approach. Now, putting that into marketing, you can do this for content. And that's what I want to bring to the smaller companies, because a lot of agile marketing in the bigger companies, they're big marketing teams. They call it 7 plus or minus 2, so 5 to 9. But what if you're a marketing team of 1, or maybe you're 1 and 2 assistants, or maybe you're 2 or 3 in the office? How can you apply some of these practices, this agile mindset, to a smaller business? And that's what I'm bringing to the world. That's what I want to bring to specifically the social media marketing world.
Ooh, I love it. So it's fascinating. I think the term is not a term I was familiar with initially. When you said agile marketing, I'm like, what is that? And then you started, when you spoke about it and you were talking about software and, the iterations, it clicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's exactly what I'm doing. So I'll share like a personal, side of how I think I'm embracing agile marketing. Didn't even know I was doing it. But basically, I do a lot of what I call the minimum viable product. What is that minimum viable product? Sometimes, by the way, I sell it before I have it. So selling the concept, I think the concept is sound. I sell it, and then I build it as I go. And I build it as I go with the intention of getting that feedback. Where are the holes? Exactly what you talked about. Where are the holes? Where is this training actually beneficial? What's not here that needs to be there? And then we go back and iterate those things. And that can be done in a course. To your point, it can be done in content. I think we spend so much time creating content, but we don't build out content that has deep legs. So look at it, the content, you do that from an agile marketing perspective. What's that first iteration of that content? How can you make that same piece of content better? Like, how do you continue to evolve that same piece of content to where it gets to a better place? So let's talk about that in the construct of agile marketing. Like, I'm trying to pull this back to this concept because I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I just have been doing it, right? But I haven't been doing it, in all fairness, as deeply or broadly potentially as I could, because I hadn't even considered it necessarily from the individual pieces of content. I'm looking at it through the lens of training, right?
Yeah.
That's my
right. That's what you do.
Can't help it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But
you can apply it to creating a blog or creating a video. Say, and this is the example I used when I spoke at Inbound. Say you're going to an event, right? So say you're going to an event and you have this marketing team and your directive is go take video, get content at the event. Now, in traditional marketing teams, that means that whoever's on the trade floor show or who's ever attending some of these sessions, they take the content, they absorb it, and they take notes. And then they go back to their team on Monday morning or Wednesday, and they have a meeting and they talk about, I got this content. But the agile mindset, the agile way, there's 4 things about an agile mindset, and I'm going to name them because they're relevant here. The first one is relentless improvement. You have to be willing to do relentless improvements. The second one is continuous curiosity. So you're always curious about the next new thing and feature. The thing that's important here is team collab and the willingness to fail. And if you not only have the willingness to fail in an agile mindset, but you have the stakeholders, the C-suite's approval to fail, you can then go to the event, and instead of taking all this content back to this marketing team and get approval, you can go put out stories and get feedback, right? And you can put out a reel and get feedback and make the reels better. You can say, hey, I'm at this wonderful event. I'm at Inbound. I'm at Social Media Marketing World. And I'm about to go into the session with Kim Garst. What should I ask Kim? And you have this story and you have questions and you get feedback. And then you're going to create better content because you're agile and you're in the moment. But you can only do that as a content marketer if you have the buy-in from everybody that's above you that says, well, if that one fails, it's okay. Go try new things, right? And so you're willing to make those improvements. You're willing to try new things. You're collaborating with your team, but you're also in the moment creating content. And that's really how that's relevant, how you can improve that. And as far as a video or a blog, instead of taking all this video and giving it to a video editor who wasn't even part of the team, isn't that what happens sometimes? You get storyboarding, you get a script, you have some actors, you create some content, and then you send it off to a video editor. Well, if the video editors are not a part of the team, they might not understand what you're trying to create with this video. So team collabs becomes important when you create a piece like a video or a blog. When you have somebody doing some of the editing, right? You need to know what's the goal, what's the emotion we're trying to get out there. And then, you want to have that minimal viable product. So even though you're going to create a YouTube video, maybe before you do that, you create a video, a smaller one for Facebook or LinkedIn, and put it out there and get some feedback and see how it does. And so that's what the agile mindset, the agile way of creating content is all about. Instead of just
Mhm.
putting all the eggs in one basket almost, right?
And you know what I find fascinating about this is the ability for us to really step back into our creativity without the burden of the overwhelm of content creation. So I want to really dig into this for a second, because I feel like content is it's like a ferocious beast. It's like
Mhm.
when we're constantly like chasing it or letting it chase us. I think it chases us, but it's hard. So like, and defining the pieces of content that we need to create, like what is that? I think the agile piece of this, and going back to the minimum viable product, I really want to pull this lever a little bit, because if you come up with or you have an experience, like I've said for forever, that like we have 1,001 stories in any given day, but we never see them in that light. We're just going about our daily to-dos. Like, right, we get up in the morning, we make our coffee. Well, I don't know about y'all, but like there's a story in that almost every morning for me. Like my coffee pot runs out of water, or like, it's a whole bunch of stuff that usually
Yeah.
happens to me, even on whether it's the coffee or it's anything. The point is, we think of it as a day to day. It's our day to day stuff. Nobody cares about this, whatever. Looking at it though through value-based content for your audience, like just deciding what it is that they're most interested in finding out. Create that minimum viable product. To Dorian's point, maybe it's a story that hey, what's your thoughts on this? Or, hey, I just had this experience, I'd love your input. Or now you can get value-based feedback from other people, and then you take that one step further. Maybe you say, okay, this is something people want to know about. These are things that they don't have answers to. They've told me they want this. Create the blog post or the video, or whatever. I say create the video before the blog post, because you can take that content and turn that into a blog post.
Right.
But iterate it. Keep digging deeper into that topic, so that you're not trying to do all the things. I think we're creating content for content's sake with no plan. And this way you could you had a visual that you used at Social Media Day Llama, where it was a motorcycle to a car. Can you explain that? Because I think just from a since we're talking about this and evolving a piece of content, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the way we normally think about creating a product. So if you're going to create a car, you don't know what you're creating, right? In software, you don't always know what you want to create. But the assignment was, there's a girl who lives in Lima, Ohio, and she needs to get to work. And we're assigned with building a product, not a piece of content, but a product. And so I gave a picture with 8 or 9 different things on there. And that included a wheel, 2 wheels, a car, and all the pieces in between. But it also created a skateboard, a scooter, a motorcycle, a bicycle. And I had people pick 5 ways on how they would build something to get this person from start to finish, from home to work and back. And she lived on top of a hill. So I let people choose, and they wrote down the numbers. And so the traditional way of thinking and of building would be, you start with a wheel, and then you do the 2 wheels or 4 wheels, and you create the base of the car. And then the third image was, the seat on it, and then you added the motor, and then you added the roof, and then you have a car. So 5 iterations, that's how you would build it. That's a traditional way, and that's what most people would choose when they see an image like that, right? Pick 5 things, how to get this person from home to work and back. The agile way, if you looked at it with that agile mindset of creating that minimal viable product, the first thing you would pick would be a skateboard. Because you put this person on a skateboard, she lives on top of the hill, she could actually get to work. And the feedback would be, well, I got to work really fast. I couldn't brake though. And I had to walk the skateboard under my arm back up the hill. So the second iteration after that would be, well, we made you a scooter. It has a brake. You can have handlebars. But again, she had to walk up the hill. The third iteration was a bicycle, because it's a minimal viable product. It's a lot cheaper to build that than build a big, car. And so you make some adjustments, you build a bicycle. And then she said that was great. but I got really tired and sweaty and going up the hill on a bicycle, that was really hard. Fourth iteration was a motorcycle, which was great until winter came to Ohio. So we ended up with the same product at the end, which is a car. But in the meantime, we got feedback. She got to work on wheels and she didn't have to wait for something. And we made her the perfect thing, which was the car at the end. But it's
and it was 5 iterations, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love this analogy because you can visualize it now in your head. And that's why I wanted you to kind of like, so for me, that was like, I'm a visual person. And if I can see the minimum viable product as a stage, there's also a term I think you use maybe that maybe will help others, which is sprint. Like, what is that? Can you like explain what the sprint is in the context of mobile agile marketing? I'm calling it mobile marketing.
Yeah. So within Agile Marketing and the Agile Manifesto that I talked about earlier, and anybody can look it up, AgileManifesto.org. There are 4 values and 12 principles. That's it. That's all it is. But the 4 values talk about what it's like, and like team collab is more important than getting a product out and all those things. You can look that up. But those are the values and the practices. And so 4 values, 12 practices. There's an infinite number. No, I said it wrong. 4 values, 12 principles. There's an infinite amount of practices, and sprint is one practice in the Agile framework that you can use. And so I use 4 different practices in my business. One is the sprint. Another one is a retrospective meeting. Another one is a backlog, and forget the daily stand-up meeting. So a sprint is a time-boxed amount of time. Now, the difference between a deadline and a sprint is that when you give yourself and your team a deadline, you give them a lot of leeway on when to start. And when a sprint is, the team is going to, remember, team collab is really important. The team is going to all work on the same pieces of content, the same tasks from the start to the finish. So you're going to take away all the other distractions. In Agile software, sprints are usually 2 weeks. I have found for a small team, my sprint can be as short as a day. If I have to put together a presentation for a conference I'm speaking at, I might do a sprint from 8 a.m. to midnight. That's going to be my sprint. I will turn off all distractions, put an autoresponder on my email. I'm not going to, put my phone on do not disturb, my laptop, and I'm going to work. And that's my sprint. I have a starting time and an ending time. So the importance, the difference between a deadline. So this is what happens. I know this. I've been working in social media and with content creators forever. Something is due next Thursday. It's now Monday. Oh, well, it's next Thursday. I have other things. Clients go, can you do this? Can you do that? You have all these other people that come in and take your attention. Now it's the next Monday. So now it's due in 3 days. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to get it due. I'll look at it tomorrow. Tuesday, your day goes to you know what, and you don't have any time. Now it's Wednesday morning. Now you get to crunch time. By noon on Thursday, you have this horrible feeling in your stomach because you're not going to make the deadline, right? Sprints take that out of the equation. First of all, sprints you do with your team, and you have a starting time and an ending time, and that's really the difference.
So I would love, because you just really highlighted something I think a lot of us do. So you're talking about the deadlines and knowing there's deadlines in our businesses, and procrastination is not my friend, but it is definitely something that saddles up to me all the time. Like, I can't get away from procrastination. And sorry, my camera sometimes goes blurry. So for those of you who are listening and live with us, I would love if you would just lead into this for a second, because I think that Dorian just made an amazing point to where, we tend to do this. We tend to put off because we think we have time, and I am notorious for this, notorious for waiting till the last minute. And then my husband always says, well, the benefits to waiting until the last minute is you only have so long to worry about it. And I'm like, well, I guess there's truth in that, but it's not a good way to do business. And what we have found as a variation of this, when we're doing this minimum viable product thing, like Dorian was talking about, didn't even know we were doing it, really in this context of agile marketing, is, to her point, myself and my team is in alignment for a period of time. So we're all working together to get to the same place. So every week we're creating a new series, a new content, new components, new whatever. We're all working together to get to the same place. And we don't put things off, we don't wait to the last minute because we're all that collaboration component. But now if you're a solopreneur, if you're just doing this on your own, do you have any advice for people who, like this concept of a sprint versus a deadline, but if they don't have anybody to hold themselves accountable and to work with them, how would they embrace this?
Yeah, so you put it on your calendar, right? So you put your time on your calendar. For example, as a solopreneur, I do have a couple of people working with me and doing some different tasks with me. But Mondays, and this is the exception, I don't do meetings. Monday is my content creation day. Wednesday is a content creation day, and it's also the day that I have a mastermind midday. And then Friday is content creation day. So my meetings, all day Tuesday, all day Thursday. And that allows me to, if I need to do a sprint on content, I can say, Monday afternoon from 1 to 4, this is my sprint for this client, and I'm going to get all this content done. Or I'm going to work on a presentation that I'm doing. I'm going to block this time. So the tip would be to put your sprint on your calendar. Treat yourself as a client. You've heard this before. I'm sure you have. But say, I'm going to start at this time and end at this time. So block that time on your calendar. That's important. And if you do have 1 or 2 people on your team, or you have a small team, if you've ever been on a company retreat, if you've ever said, Saturday morning, or we're planning out next year, that's a sprint. You're basically taking time away from the office or time away from what you're working on. You're going to be usually in a different place. And that, doesn't mean physically different place, but it could be like a new app or a new document, right? In a new place. And we're going to work on just this one thing. Usually company retreats happen because you do high level strategy, but you can also do this for content creation. And you all get together and you work on this one thing together. And a great tool for working together is Google, because I do this with my clients. I'm actually agile with my clients. All my new clients that I onboard now, we have a Google Drive that we share. We have documents in there. We have a call agenda that we're in together where we can tag each other. But we also have content creation docs where we're in there. I'll add a picture, I'll add copy, I'll tag them. They come in, we're working together. And that's a great way to work together. But if you're by yourself, put it on your calendar, figure out your days where you don't have that interruption. And that's basically your sprint. And then do it for different clients or different things. Like if you have to do your bookkeeping, do a sprint for bookkeeping every Friday from 2 to 4. Put it on your calendar. Boom. It's there. Start at 2, end at 4. That's your sprint. And then the other part to doing a sprint, at the end of the sprint, it's really important to take time to do a retrospective, which is one of the other practices that I do, because in order to improve what you've done, you have to not just say this worked and this didn't, but how can I make it better next time? So what action am I going to take next time to make it better? That's called a retrospective meeting. And you can do that by yourself. Be great if you have a team where you could say, hey, we just did a sprint. We spent 3 days working on this content. Let's do a 15-minute retrospective. What worked, what didn't, and how can we improve it next time we do the same type of sprint for the same type of content?
I love that retrospective thing because it's so fascinating. Again, we didn't even know we were doing this. So last week we met and we went over the previous week's content. And we're like, what's missing? like, what still needs to be here? What did we not include? So going back to your visual where, you're going from a skateboard to along the journey, understanding that it's just an iteration. But you have to identify what the next iteration is. Now, sometimes I think that potentially could come through your own creativity, and just meeting with yourself, like what,
Right.
and even if you're that one person, but it can also come through feedback from your community. Like if you put that content out there, maybe you do a reel or a story or whatever, and then listening to that'll give you touch points to say, okay, well, I didn't address that question, or I didn't have that as a part of the content, or whatever. So having that retrospective,
it's really good. And actually,
yes.
I just had some feedback. I was on a show yesterday. I'm flying to Suriname at the end of this month, and I'm going to speak at a conference. And they had me on their live show. Now I have my outline ready. I have half of my slide deck done. So they're like, what are going to be the takeaways? So I was talking about the takeaways that people are going to have when they come to my session. But the question she kept asking me was not the what or the why. She kept asking me about the how. And it was one of those things like, okay, well, I'm glad I don't have my whole thing done yet, because here I am talking to somebody who's going to be in my audience, and she really wants to know the how. So I need to make sure that I add that to this presentation that I'm working on, because she wants to know, she's going to tell me, how can I do this? What tools can I use? Those are the questions that she kept coming back at me. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it.
Okay.
This is what I need. So you have to be able to listen
To
for sure.
listen. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also heard you talk about the meeting. Retrospective is a meeting, but one of the other practices that I do every day, and it's silly, but I'm standing up right now, it's called a daily stand-up meeting. And if you have a team, even of 1 or 2 or 3 people, you can do that together. And it's really important to do it together. But if you're a team of 1, you can do this to yourself, and you can do this every single day, right as you start your day. You answer 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? Be honest with yourself. If you played on your phone for 2 hours, write it down, because you don't want to repeat that, right? What did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? And where am I stuck? And that question, when you are on a team, is going to be super important, because say Kim and Rhonda and I are a team, and I say, hey, I'm stuck because I'm supposed to be editing this video, but so-and-so, you're supposed to be sending me these thumbnails and I don't have them. If you do that every day where you're stuck, that person goes, oh, that's right. I was supposed to get that to you. I'm going to be in a doctor's meeting, but maybe so-and-so can help and step in. Team collab, remember? So having that daily meeting, even if it's with yourself, where am I stuck? Sometimes I get stuck because I don't want to eat the frog. And if you've never heard that expression, because you're dreading something that you need to get done. So my daily stand-up is like, what did I not, where am I stuck? Why do I have this bottleneck? Because what am I afraid to do? What phone call do I not want to make? Or who do I not want to reach out to? Or what am I waiting on from a client? Or what am I waiting on from my assistant? And I do that first thing in the morning, because if I do that first thing in the morning, then the rest of the day, I might be able to get whatever I was stuck on and finish that task. So the 3 questions every morning when I get to my office: what did I do yesterday? And be honest. What am I doing today? And make sure you know what you're doing, what tasks you're working on, and where am I stuck? And that's going to really open up a lot of stuff. Again, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say this example because you've probably been there. If you're a content creator, if you're a small business owner, it's like there might be a deadline, but you're not really wanting to remind somebody because you remind them 5 times. And, but if you have that daily stand up, you're like, I'm still waiting. I was stuck yesterday. I'm still stuck today. So today I am going to ask this person for this. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to say, hey, I'm stuck. I am stuck because I'm waiting for this. And if you wait a week, then everybody's like, well, this was due. Well, guess what? You're going to find those hiccups a lot earlier. And so content can flow and you're more productive, and everybody in the team can keep moving. That's part of the agile marketing, is that those iterations keep coming and you keep moving along. And if you don't have that honest conversation with yourself and with your team,
yes, You just said it. I mean, even if it's yourself, you're a solopreneur and you don't really have a team to hold you accountable. I think what you just said is going to be super valuable if you guys will listen and do it. Because sometimes we have to own our, like, seriously. Like the things that we don't want to do, the frogs that we don't want to eat, are the one thing that is going to make the difference between success and failure in our business.
Yeah.
Like somebody said here, it's Tea Time says, I'm stuck not making calls to collaborate. Okay, so if you listen to yourself every day when you do your stand-up call and you hear yourself say it day after day, it's the same thing. You start to realize that, it's easy to ignore what you don't acknowledge. I'm going to say that
That's
again.
it.
It is easy to ignore what you do not acknowledge. So if you do the stand-up meeting every day and you start to really own your stuff, you'll get to a place where you're going to be like, okay, I just got to eat this frog. That is the path to success. This is the thing that's holding me back. It's the thing that is holding the team back. If you have a team, I usually find that I'm sometimes the linchpin. I'm the one that's holding back, the team. So you got to ignore. You've got to acknowledge what you're not embracing. If you don't, you just continue to ignore it. And it's
Yeah.
usually the thing that is going to keep you, whether sometimes it's mindset, sometimes it's, not wanting to create the video. Because if you're video scaredy, you don't want to do the video. So it's sometimes though, just acknowledging it, saying it out loud. I recommend you say it out loud,
Mm-hmm.
say it out loud, own your stuff, because if we don't acknowledge these things, then we're just not gonna get there. So
Yeah.
I love that you said that. I love that concept too of a stand-up meeting, regardless of whether you're a team or whether how long do these usually take? These are great 3-minute, three simple questions,
It's
right?
yeah. If I'm doing this by myself, like most of the time I do have a Monday morning quick check-in with my team, and that's when I ask, where are you stuck? And it's like, the client didn't do this. I'm like, okay, right in the meeting, I'm sending these emails to this client. I'm seeing you. You're supposed to be getting this content, these images. You're not getting them. Boom, we're sending that email right now. I'm meeting with that client tomorrow. Between this morning and tomorrow afternoon, we should have this content. And if not, I'm going to meet with the client. So I'm going to remind them we're stuck because you didn't send us these images. But if you ignore it and sit on it, then it's easy to say, well, we couldn't make any content. That's not a good way to do this. So implementing all this agile, all these practices, and there's one more that I haven't talked about that's called a backlog. But when I started really implementing this, I gained 12 hours a week, Kim, a day and a half. Gained back 12 hours a week of I could take on more clients. I was more productive because I was getting things done. I was acknowledging what I was sitting on. I was realizing how I spend my day, wasting time sometimes, not doing the things that brought in more money, really understanding all these systems and what was working, it was not. And I think the biggest one was the sprint, focusing on a couple of tasks at a time and really using that do not disturb and telling my team, I'm unavailable, turning off Slack and saying, I'm going to put my head down and get this content done. And it's been huge. It's been huge for my business.
The funny thing is, like, if you Google, just as a quick aside, if you Google agile marketing, I think you're going to be overwhelmed, because I was when I started looking into it, trying to find out the best questions to ask this morning. But it's really a simple process. And that's what, the term agile marketing, and just using and implementing some of just this very basic things that Dorian's talked about today, I think will ultimately change the way you do business. And the concept of the sprint, like she said, doing the stand-up meetings. I'm curious, you talked about the term, what was it? And I think I know what it means, but the one we haven't talked about yet.
The backlog.
The backlog. What is the backlog?
So the backlog is sort of, these are terms that you kind of know, but they're just a little different. It's a to-do list, but it's a prioritized to-do list. So when a client comes to you and says, I need a flyer made, right? Maybe you're a content creator, I need a video. You put it in the backlog. You don't say, okay, I'm going to start on it today. No, you put it in the backlog. And then when it's time in the morning to talk about what am I going to do today, or when you start your next sprint, maybe you have time to, do a full day sprint of content creation, you're going to look at all the deadlines. And if that flyer is due in 2 days and it's at the top, you're going to put that in today's sprint. If that flyer is not due for 3 more weeks, you're going to do another sprint between now and then. So it's somewhere in the middle of your backlog. And if the client says sometime in the next 4 months, I need to get a website up and about, and they haven't paid you, then maybe it becomes at the bottom of your backlog. So it's a to-do list, but nothing that you're doing in your sprint is that doesn't come from the backlog. So the backlog is continuously prioritized. And one of the ways I do this, and I used to only do it like this, is with these sticky notes, right? I have a wall behind me. I think you can see there's some sticky notes on there, but I have a big wall to the side where I have a backlog of things that need to get done. And the cool thing about sticky note is you can move them, right? So when I do my daily stand-up meeting and I pick of what I'm going to do today, I might pick those sticky notes and put them right here at my desk and go, okay, these are the first 5 things I want to concentrate on. This is what I need to do. Now, I had a coach and she said to me, Doreen, when the world opens back up, this was during the pandemic, what you going to do? Carry your sticky notes with you in your suitcase? And I'm like, ooh. So there are tools out there like a Trello board where it kind of works like the sticky notes where you can prioritize things. There's all kinds of tools out there that help you do Agile, not be Agile, help you do Agile and implement some of these Agile practices. So the backlog is every time a client gives you a task or your team, it goes into the backlog. And then as a team, you decide from the backlog what you're going to put in your sprint. Remember, a start date and an end date. So that whole principle makes their emergency not necessarily become your emergency. So that's a really cool way to look at it. So it's a to-do list, but it's prioritized.
I love that. So let me put a little bit of a spin on that. Like, what if you have what I call high volume, super quick turnaround? Like a client comes to you and it's like, I got an emergency. To your point, their emergency is not, we shouldn't let them dictate our emergency. But if it's a client, or sometimes it's our own internal things, like, right, we have something we have to turn quickly. How would you apply agile marketing to a high volume, quick turnaround scenario?
That's a great question. So it kind of depends on when it comes in and how it comes in. I have found that doing agile marketing, I am meeting with my clients more frequently, so those emergencies don't necessarily come up. I used to meet with clients every 2 to 4 weeks. I now meet with clients every week. Sometimes it's only 15 minutes. So those emergencies don't quite come up anymore because we have that running backlog of things that need to happen in our agenda. So with my clients, I have this is what we're working on. These are the blogs that we're working on. You're writing this, I'm going to publish this. Here's content. You were supposed to approve this. So we actually have that now. It's kind of taken out those emergencies. So that's the best answer. But if something comes up, I will say my next opening, if it comes in on a Tuesday and it comes in with the text, I will ignore it because Tuesday is my day to have meetings. So I might ignore it till lunchtime, and I will, even if it comes in as a text, I will send out back an email and say, tomorrow is my content creation day. My earliest availability is to get this done by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Is that okay? So I go check in with them. But to prevent that, last minute thing is meet with the clients more often, meet with your team more often. So those emergencies don't really happen. Right. And I was telling Kim in the back room, I took off a week last week for family leave. We had a death in the family. And so there were a couple clients I didn't meet with. So this morning when I went with my team, it was like, this client didn't do this. This client didn't do this. This client. And that's because I didn't meet with them. So now, because they didn't do their work, because we didn't have that ongoing conversation, now there's a couple of things that are more pressing. So meeting with your clients more frequently helps prevent that.
That's such a good response, especially for those of us who have clients that, we have to serve. And you try to do it with a smile on your face, but because that's what usually happens is their emergency, because they think it's critical to them in that moment, but just managing that in such a way that it doesn't become our critical path to, getting the thing done for them. So we've talked about this whole agile marketing, and obviously a lot of bigger brands are really rolling this out into their teams, collaborating within teams, even marketing and sales teams and all that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And then HR and they're all doing they're doing that for sure. And it
Right.
has to come from the top. I kind of talked about that, but
Right.
if you're in a small team and you have somebody at the helm who is not allowing your team to make decisions, not allowing your team to fully cooperate, not allowing your team to try new things and not be willing to fail, which is it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Then it's harder to be agile, for
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, I do believe if you're in a environment where you're not controlling a narrative, meaning you're not the boss, so to speak, then it could be a little bit different. But if you're the business owner, whether you have a small team or whether you have, you're a solopreneur, you can so implement these components of agile marketing, and you be in charge of the narrative. But that said, you also have to be willing to fail. Like Doreen just said, it's like that's it's super important to understand that. I think failure is just it's honestly it's a gift. I haven't always viewed it that way, but I feel like we learn so much more.
Right.
Let's just look at this through the lens of just a common analogy. Like if somebody tells us the stove is hot, okay. But if we put our hand on the stove, we're going to learn that lesson real fast, quick, and in a hurry, right?
Yeah.
So, failure, it just cements the lesson, I think, a lot faster than, just listening to someone else tell us, well, don't do that thing or do the other thing. So can you share like a couple of stories? I know you've talked about your own business, but do you have any examples of how agile marketing has really made a difference for small business owners once they implemented it?
Yeah. So I'm working with a client right now who it really is my ideal client. So we start working together early in the summer, and she had done her own social media, and she was trying to put out a blog series, an alphabet blog series. And she has a couple associates, and it was just hard to get them to write anything. So, but she wanted to finish the series. It's the alphabet, right? 26, and I think she was at 5. So we started working together. We had a Google Drive where we all shared the content. So one of the first things I did is I said, let's get 26 documents, right? We're gonna have 26 letters in the alphabet. So we put A through Z on there. This is a law firm. So there were topics that had to do with law. And I said, let's start with the headline. So with 26 documents in the drive, we did the headlines. We used a tool for that. And then I said, which ones can you write? Which one can we assign them to each of the associates? So then we just started going through the line. We can tag them in there. And then they would say, I don't really know anything about this topic. So I'm like, okay, that's where you're stuck. I hear you. So we put research in there and say, this is, say it's the E for expert. So go, and this is the direction I want you to take on this blog article. Here's a couple of reference points. Here are actually a couple of paragraph headings. And then can you write it? So hearing where these people were stuck, allowing them to still have their own creativity, moving them along. Because what people often see is a big problem, but being able to put them in small tasks allows them to move forward. So we are 2 months in and we have 3 blogs left. So we've done a huge amount of work in a small amount of time by being very systematic and breaking these, what is a sprint, into what we call little epics, little stories, right? So that each document in itself, and then breaking that down and making it so easy for somebody to go in and say, can you just write this? there is a headline, there's a topic, there is, paragraphs, just write it. You have the knowledge. And so we've been very successful, and just those little changes have made a huge difference in our business.
Yeah, and that's actually such a wicked smart idea too for everybody. Like the whole concept of a, an alphabet series of solving a problem for your ideal person. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it was her idea. It was a great idea, but she wasn't able to execute on the idea with the team that she had, and bringing me in and allowing to use Agile and working together in the Google Drive, really what's allowed us to move forward. And we're, like I said, 2 months in, and we were going to do 2 a month. And, we've done like 15, 16 of them. We're doing really, really well, and we're just getting them out. So it's been great.
That is so awesome. Well, let me, I'll pull up the winners for today. And then I want everybody to know where they can connect with you, Doreen. So let me just do the announcements on the winners real quick. So Jeremy and It's Tea Time are the winners for how to build a high converting freebie funnel. So if you guys will go over to kimgarst.com/winner, share your details. Like I said, lead gen, y'all, is critical. If we are not generating quality leads, if we're not building our list, moving people from social media, hint, 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 to some place where we can serve them and, communicate with them more frequently and better, where we have access to their undivided attention, then we're probably going to struggle to sell. So anyway, I'm just saying, if you don't have a high converting freebie funnel, and you weren't today's winner, let us know. We'll point you in the direction of how you get access to this if you would like it. So, Doreen, tell everybody where they can connect with you.
The best place. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. It's where I tell my stories. It's where I share my content. It's where I talk about agile marketing. Pretty unique name, Dorian Morin-Van Dam. I think there's one, orange glasses. You'll find me. I would love for you to connect with me right there on LinkedIn. Ask questions. This is something. Agile is all about putting it into practice. It's a mindset, understanding what needs to be done, but then doing it. And I'll share this real quick. I took an agile marketing course, and I was a certified agile marketer. And then what? So I had to go do these practices. I had to put it into practice daily, understand it. So that's what I'm trying to share on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. And even if you just do a few of these at a time, it's going to make a huge difference in your business too. And you'll feel great because you're going to get stuff done. Productivity is going to skyrocket. I promise.
I love that. And, honestly, if I was just to give one small little piece of advice to everybody, try that stand-up meeting every day. At a minimum, try the stand-up meeting every day. Answer the 3 questions, be honest with yourself. At least I think that, just looking at this through my very small window, some of these things I was doing, didn't really know I was doing it in this context. But I think, wow, that stand-up meeting concept really resonated with me. So I don't know. And feel free to add what really resonated with you, because I think that this would be super powerful for Doreen to know, like, what did you all, like, we're all small business owners here. So what resonated with you? For me, I was like, stand-up meeting. Yeah, I need to own my own stuff. And, every day, that really resonated with me. So feel free to drop in what resonated with you guys, and absolutely connect with Doreen, because you're going to learn so much from her. So thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you for sharing all your knowledge and your passion for this. It's contagious for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this. It's really the one thing that I have found in the last few years. I just yes, I want to bring this to everybody because it's really changed. And I have been a social media manager for 9 years. This has really changed how I work with my clients, how I work with my team, how I structure my day. And it's really made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can hear the passion for it. And so it's always exciting, I think, to like I say, passion's contagious. Like, for me, I'm like, yes, I got to do some of these things. So I'm excited. Thanks for being here and sharing your awesome sauce with us. And for all of you that have been with us live or watching on the replay, time is valuable. We appreciate you guys for spending some of it with us. So have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. We'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. Take care. God bless.
Bye, everybody.